back to my channel. How you guys doing? Hope everyone is doing great. If you are new here, you're welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, you're also welcome. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to cut and sew one shoulder asymmetric blouse. So I'll be working with this fabric. It's 2 yards, but I won't be using all. I'll also be working with the basic bodice pattern for the front and for the back. So let's get started. As you can see, I already placed my front pattern on my fabric, and I'll go ahead and start marking out my measurements. So the importance of having your pattern is that it saves time, and not only that, it reduces the way you mark on your fabric, unlike when you're drafting directly on your fabric. Okay, so it's important that you have one so you can use it and save time. So the measurement I have on this pattern is shoulder is 15 inches divided by 2 will give me 7.5. The bust I have here is 40 inches divided by 4 is 10. Then the waist I have here is 34 divided by 4 will give me 8.5. Now the half length I'll be working with is 17 and a half for the front and also for the back. I'm using the same half length for the front and the back because it's a free blouse. If I'm making a fitted blouse, there's no way I will use the same half length for the back and also for the front. If you have been following my tutorial, you will know that the method I use is the bust dart technique. Okay, so because it's a free gown, I'll be working with same half length. Now the length of the blouse is 28 inches. That 28 inches has my 1 inch hemming allowance. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start marking. Now coming to the chest line, the bust I'm working with is 40 inches divided by 4 will give me 10 and a half. Sorry, 10 inches plus 2 inches is. Remember I said that the blouse is a free blouse. Plus 2 inches is will give me 12 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance will give me 13 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark my 13 inches. Now coming to the waistline, that is the half length, which is 17 and a half. I'm going to impute my waist measurement, which is 34 divided by 4 will give me 8.5 plus 2 inches is will give me 10.5. 1 inch seam allowance will give me 11.5. So I'll go ahead and mark my 11.5. Coming to the hemline, I'm going to impute my hip measurement, which is 44 divided by 4 will give me 11 plus 2 inches each will give me 13 plus 1 inch seam allowance will give me 14 inches. So this is my 14 inches. The next thing I'm going to do now is to connect the points, the bust to the waist. And you see, waist to the hemline, which is the hip line. You can see what I'm doing. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. Can you see? So Looking at the neckline, I didn't cut the neckline. What I'm going to do now is just to notch this part and notch the depth. I will leave it because I'm cutting asymmetric neckline, so I don't need to cut the this. I don't need to give it this shape. Okay, so I will leave it this way. When I'm done cutting the back, I will cut out the neckline. So I've gone ahead to cut out the back, folding in my zipper allowance inside. Can you see the zipper allowance? I folded it in because there won't be any zip at the back of this blouse. So I added to 2 inches is 1 inch seam allowance, just like what I did at the front. So that's that. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to open it up and match it up with the front so I can cut my neckline. So as you can see, I've matched up the front and the back. Can you see this is the front and this is the back? Okay, so looking at the neckline, you can see I didn't cut out the neckline, I didn't shape it. So what I did is that I notched the shoulder. The front neckline is supposed to be 3 inches by 3 inches, and the back neckline is supposed to be 3 inches by 1 inch depth. So what I did is just to mark the 3 inches. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to determine where I want my off shoulder to fall on. Is it at the right? Is it at the left? So I want my off shoulder to be at the left. So what I'm going to do is, this is my left. I'll place my tape at the tip of the shoulder here, and I will come down by 4 inches. That is how off I want the shoulder to be. Okay, so at that 4 inches, I'm going to connect to where I have that notch at the shoulder. So using my curve ruler, I'm going to connect this way. I don't know whether you can see the mark. So I'll go ahead and cut it out. Can you see? You see? So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the cape that's I don't know whether is it cape, I don't know what it's called, but that thing at the front. Please, if you know the name, you can go ahead and drop that at the comment section. Okay, so I'm going to cut that out. So what I'm going to do is to pick my front this way, and I'll fold my fabric into two because I'm cutting both the facing of the cape. Okay, I'm going to cut it together. So I'm going to place my front this way. Can you see? Can you see what I'm doing? Then I'll mark out the shape of the neck. Can you see what I'm doing? Okay, I'm going to remove the front now. I'm going to determine how the height of the cape. Okay, so I want the height to be 3 inches or 3.5 is okay. So I'll go ahead and mark. Yes, I'm going to mark 3.5 because I need ½ inch to turn it within the neckline. I also need ½ inch to close the down part. So 3.5 is okay. So by the time I'm done with the turning the neckline and also closing the down part, I should be left with 2.5, which is still okay. So I'll go ahead and mark 3.5. Can you see what I'm doing? Can you see? So I'll go ahead and cut it out. So I've gone ahead to cut out a long basic sleeve for the one shoulder, and for the off shoulder I'll be cutting the sleeve now, the off shoulder sleeve now. Okay, so the length for the sleeve is 24 inches, okay, plus the seam hemming allowance. Now for the off shoulder sleeve, I've also marked out the length as well. Now next thing I'm going to do is from here to here is 24. So the next thing I'm going to do is to place my tape on the starting line, and I'll mark out the bicep height, which is 5 inches. Okay, so this is the 5 inches here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do on that 5 inches mark, I'm going to take the round bicep, which is 13 inches divided by 2 will give me 6.5. I'm going to be adding 2 inches east to that to give me 8.5, plus 1 inch seam allowance will give me 9.5. So I'll go ahead and mark the 9.5. Okay, so this is it. So I have 9.5 here. So what I'm going to be doing is to minus 3 inches from that 9.5. Whatever I have, I'm going to be marking it at the top line here, the starting line. So I have 6.5. If I minus 3 inches from 9.5, I should have 6.5. So I'll go ahead and mark 6.5 at the starting line here. Remember, I'm cutting an off shoulder sleeve. Now, this method is only going to work if you are going to be inserting elastic or gathering the top part, okay? Because there are other methods of cutting out your off shoulder sleeve. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is from the top line here, I'm going to connect to the biceps using my curve ruler. So I'll connect this way. Can you see? I don't know whether you can see the marking, but when I'm done, you see the way I'm going to cut it. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to get my front and get where I have the off shoulder. I'm going to measure the curve I have there to see if it will match up with the off shoulder curve. So this is the front. I'm going to place where I have the off shoulder to see if it will match up. It will match up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out. But before I cut out, I'm going to be adding 1 inch to fold for the casing for the elastic. So I've already marked out the 1 inch. You can see this is the 1 inch. Let me cut it out so you can see it. So this is the 1 inch. Can you see? So I'll go ahead and cut out the curve. Can you see? You see the cuff? Can you see? So I'm going to be gathering, I'm going to fold here so I can insert elastic. Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do is to shape the body. So whatever I have here as my round top round bicep, I'm going to be imputing the same thing at the hemline here. So I'm going to be imputing 9.5, 9.5 all the way. And you see, so I'll go ahead and cut it out. And you see, so this is our off shoulder sleeve. So I've gone ahead to close the down part of the cape and the two sides using the facing I cut out. But before I do that, I ironed an interfacing into it. Can you see? Can you see the interfacing? So I close the two sides, as you can see, and this side, leaving the top part open. Okay, so I'm going to be placing it at the front. I'm going to be using it to turn the neckline for the front. This is how to place it. I'll place it this way, and I will use it to turn the neckline for the front. I also hem the down part of the front, and for the back neckline, I turn the neckline using a bias, as you can see, and I also hem the down part. So for the off shoulder sleeve, I've inserted the elastic, as you can see, at the top part and at the down part. Can you see? And I've cut out the fabric I'll be using for the bow tie on that sleeve. So the length of the fabric is 45 inches, okay, and the width is 1.5 unfold, 1.5 inch unfold, okay. I've already closed it, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to stitch it to the off shoulder sleeve. So I'll be stitching it at the center of the upper part like this, just like what you're seeing at the thumbnail. Can you see? And for the other full sleeve, I've also inserted the elastic at the down part. Can you see? Can you see? So that's that. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go and finish up the blouse, and I'll come back and show you the finished look. So I'm done with the blouse, as you can see. So this is the cape. You can see how I turn the front neckline. Can you see with the cape? So this is where the allowance is. Can you see? And this is the off shoulder sleeve. And can you see the bow tie? Can you see? And there's the sleeve. Can you see? There's the back. This is the other full sleeve. Can you see? And this is the full length of the blouse. Can you see? So this is the blouse on the mannequin. You can see the bow tie. And see, this is the off shoulder sleeve. You see the cape. The other sleeve. You see the full length. If you like what you're seeing, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next one.